the big mistake that people make in their lives is that they go from the bottom through kind of these low economic levels, noticing that they're feeling better. And then they say, oh, therefore more money, I'm going to feel better. And they chase the cookie for the rest of their life. It's like Pavlov's dogs. You got programmed early on to thinking that your affect balance is going to get better. You're going to feel better.
Are they working too hard to try to make them more money, or why is it a problem?
It's a problem because they're on the hedonic treadmill.
So
they
always
never get
more.
the satisfaction. They want more, but they never get what they want, but they're always fooled. This is why it's very important for all of us to remember. Satisfaction doesn't come from what you have. Satisfaction comes from what you have divided by what you want. And each of us, if we actually want to find enduring satisfaction, no matter where we are economically, we need a wants management strategy. So the worst, most metastatically stupid idea in Western society, in American society, is the bucket list. The bucket list is like, I'm going to make a list of all my cravings and attachments and desires, and I'm going to pour over it. And all that does is it lowers my
These are really
satisfaction.
unhealthy. But isn't it good for people to be striving to work harder and build things, though? If as an economist,
this is your point. This gets to your point. So you said, okay, so does that mean that money doesn't matter and none of it? No, money per se doesn't matter. But what you're actually being compensated for matters. So Joseph Schumpeter, the father of modern entrepreneurship, the understanding, the professor at Harvard, but he was a visionary. He said that entrepreneurs actually don't care about money per se, more than the fact that it's a scorecard for what they're building. This is the key thing. And so for entrepreneurs who are being really successful, don't think that your satisfaction is actually coming from the money. It's not. Your satisfaction is actually coming from the prosperity that you're creating.
Sense of accomplishment and
you're
helping
doing
everyone.
something beautiful. You're earning your success. Your skills are meeting your passions. You're serving other human beings.
We can still serve everyone by building and creating, but we shouldn't be doing it to want to get our private jet.
Yeah, look, the St. Thomas Aquinas in 1265 writes the Summa Theologia. And he says basically that there are 4 idols that people chase in life: money, power, pleasure, and honor, by which he meant fame, and which we mean prestige in life. Those are idols that never bring satisfaction. They run you in the wrong direction. If you want to be ambitious for truly the 4 things that will enduringly bring authentic happiness: faith, family, friendship, and work that does only 2 things, where you earn your success and you serve other people. And by faith, I mean life philosophy, the transcendent, something bigger than you. Faith, family, friendship, and work. Be ambitious for those 4 things, and the world's your oyster.
Faith, family, friendship, and work.
Yep.
I want to ask a little bit about poverty, because it's something you spent a lot of time on. I think one of the most inspiring things I was ever at is a couple of times when we were at Sea Island, and you were sitting there speaking to everybody, and it's great because you had probably over 100 billionaires in the room. And you were inspiring everyone about how to help the least well off in our society. And I think you really did a great job, I think, for a lot of the right in transforming the focus to be our values are only really good if we're helping the least well off. It's clear you really care about that. It's awesome. The U.S. government, since the war on poverty, has spent trillions of dollars, hasn't really worked. We're about to spend trillions more right now. I think we're about to print $4 trillion more is the current debate and discussion to supposedly help with poverty. It doesn't seem to be working. We're still doing it. What's going on? What should we be doing? And is it going to work this time at all? Like, they're spending all this money. What are they doing?
Well, what we've done since 1964, when the war on poverty was declared by Lyndon B. Johnson, but it's really 1966 when the programs were up and running, is that we have the poverty rate has bounced around between 10 and 15% every year since then, despite the fact that we spent somewhere around $20 trillion in the war on poverty. And so that's failure in any industry except government, quite frankly. I mean, you wouldn't get the investment year after year after year. However, let's not underestimate actually how much it has allowed the war on poverty and the programs have allowed people to suffer less the depredations of poverty, the public health crises, the deaths that didn't have to occur, which is really good. But
it's helped some.
For sure, absolutely. It's and people on the political right really need to recognize that.
Yeah.
The problem is not that poverty has become more bearable. It has become more bearable. The problem is that poverty is not more escapable. So when we say 10 to 15%, I mean, this is extremely relative. I'll give you an example. Today, the person at the 10th percentile economically in America lives in the same square footage of housing as the person at the 50th percentile in 1980.
Wow.
So think about that. It was 1980. I was a sophomore in high school. I realize you weren't born yet, but
almost a couple of years
after. That was so depressing, man. Anyway, so what was and we were a lower middle class family. We were the 25th percentile. economically as I was growing up on the north side of Queen Anne Hill in Seattle. Very, it was in those days a working class neighborhood.
Yeah.
These days, who knows? It's probably like, the bedroom for Amazon or something, right?
Probably, yeah.
Yeah, a hovel is, $1 billion or something. So the point is that, this is really, really relative. Between 10 and 15% of the population, everybody has running water. Everybody's got a TV, everybody's a refrigerator, everybody has electricity.
So poor people today are living lives of luxury versus 100 years ago.
Yeah, exactly right.
But they're still not happy.
They're not happy because poverty is not escapable. Yeah. See, this is not how people are wired. The problem is with the welfare mentality of the elite classes and government and government officials is not that we can't relieve people of the worst, the depredations of poverty that leave people in the worst condition. The problem is that we misunderstand the human condition and what actually brings happiness. What brings happiness is being able to succeed on my merits, to actually understand my own passions. What brings happiness is to see that my life is an enterprise. I mean, you're an entrepreneur, and so you understand perfectly there's this unique adventure that comes from being an entrepreneur. Every single person watching us and listening to us today is an entrepreneur because the startup is your life. And when we actually take away the initiative of people to see their life as a startup, we truly have created poverty. That is poverty.
So we need people to feel wanted.
We need to be people to feel needed. See, to be needed is the essence of dignity. Dignity is to be worthy of respect. And we believe in the West that everybody has radically equal human dignity. And part of that's coming from the Judeo-Christian understanding that we're made in God's image. So even if you're an atheist, you're stewing in this concept of being made in God's image. And God is worthy of respect. And so every human is worthy of respect. To be worthy of respect means you have dignity, and nobody has less dignity than somebody else. Now, not everybody in the world believes that, but we fundamentally believe that in the West. That changed the world, by the way. And it's something that's a really, really important thing for us to keep in mind, notwithstanding your religious views at all. Okay, so what is the opposite of dignity? And the answer is despair. I was listening to this speech by the Roman Catholic Cardinal of Chicago, Cardinal Francis George. He passed away a couple of years ago. And he was talking to his richest donors. And he was on the North Shore of Chicago. And he was talking about funding his poverty programs on the south side of the city. A place that they'd literally never been. Yeah. And he said, here's why they needed to fund these poverty programs. He said, the poor need you to pull them out of poverty. They're like, yeah. And you need the poor to keep you out of hell, right? Is what he said. And I thought about that, and I understand the theological significance of that statement. But then I thought, do we as a society need the poor? The problem that we have is we treat the poor as liabilities to manage as opposed to assets to develop. Now, you've run companies successfully, and you got both liabilities and assets. Liabilities you manage until you can get them off the books. Assets can be unbelievably unprofitable and expensive, but you develop them because that's the future of your society.
Your people are your assets, and the goal is to help everybody
exactly right. You would never, your kids, you could treat them like liabilities or assets. You always treat them like assets because you want them to have dignity. Yeah. If you want people to feel dignity, people, especially who are in poverty, they need to be needed. So every public policy should ask the following question. Is this making people more necessary or less necessary? If it's devaluing their work or creating disincentives for them to work, if it's fragmenting their community, if it's giving them less of a desire or incentive to live with and care for their families, you've said to them that they are not needed. And that's the ultimate sin of public policy. That's what keeps us where we are.